Any guest stalker starts with a shot on a target.
Pretty convincing.
Ollie Williams is a guest of Ben Heath, a stalker in Hampshire who has had a good idea, and we will come to the idea in a minute. Ollie has had to hand in his ordinary lead bullets and use copper bullets at Ben's request, though he is more interested in trying to catch the empty cartridge as it comes out of the chamber.
Right, I'm going to try this. It normally goes through the back. No. I've been trying.
Okay, brilliant. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I am.
Yes, because he is cool like that. So, why the fuss about copper bullets?
We don't want to have barriers. So that's why we've made the decision that all of the deer that we harvest will be shot with lead-free ammunition.
And why does Ben not want to have barriers? Well, this is the bit about the good idea. It's called Deer Box, and it has come about because of coronavirus lockdown, which has caused a slump in restaurant bookings, plus a new record low for venison prices.
And so Deer Box is an idea formed by myself and Mike Robinson. Mike manages in excess of 30,000 acres. We have about 15,000 acres in this area surrounding Newbury. And then we have a further sort of 15,000 acres up in the Gloucestershire area, which produces a lot of fallow deer. And up until now, the focus of that business has been supplying the high-end restaurants. 2.5, 3 years ago, Mike invested heavily in Albarn larder, and that is a fully FSA inspected larder. So the FSA inspectors come every week. All the deer are inspected and they're all UK stamped. So in terms of certification and quality assurance on our venison, it's the best, it's the highest. And recognising the current state of the venison market, recognising that there potentially might not be so many restaurants around, rather than just sitting on our laurels and going, well, what do we do? Oh, let's just accept what comes. We've got this fantastic facility at Albarn. We ran a small test in lockdown doing some venison boxes, and we realised that there is very much a market for this, but also it's a very limited market. And so the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a demand. And so the mission of Deer Box is very much to promote venison, not just our venison, but cooking of venison, that it's low in cholesterol, it's healthy, it's got all the essential minerals, it's a superfood in terms of meat, and yet it goes mainly unnoticed and not consumed very much in this country. What we want to do is show people how they can cook it. So Mike is the perfect candidate for that. We're going to be showing people how to use it, how to use the various cuts, and really the idea is to turn it into an everyday meat, a meat that people will use to replace a proportion of their beef, lamb, chicken.
Now, I mentioned the word copper bullet, and as if by magic, the firearms expert Andrew Venables appears. He is stalking on another part of the estate today and swaps over Ollie's usual .308 ammunition for a hand-loaded copper round.
We have got Winchester 150 grain, power bonded, which is a good take on a standard lead and lead cord copper bullet. The core of the lead is bonded to the copper, so it's likely to form mushroom, much less likely to actually break up. In order to replace today Ollie's 150 grain, perfectly good Winchester bullet, coming out about 2,800 feet per second actually, we've got a 130 grain copper bullet, which is actually coming out of my reload at 3,000 feet per second. We gain 200 or 300 feet per second. We've got a lighter bullet with a lower sectional density, which will dump energy quicker. So if you go down the non-lead route into the copper route, whatever you've been shooting, you need to go down in weight, which will seamlessly take you up in velocity. If you're hand loading at the moment, it's relatively easy to achieve and the bullets are available, and the increasing number of manufacturers are jumping on the back of this one, which is great. But if you're buying factory ammo, if you walk into the average British gun shop which has copper, it's often 150 grain, 165 grain, 180 grain, 170 grain. Brilliant if you're in a German forest with big Kylers and massive European reds running about. Great if you're in Africa with plains game up to wildebeest and things. But it's too tough for old British quarry. It isn't that the bullets don't work. It's like taking a Land Rover to an F1 race and complaining you couldn't win it.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, someone's just about to say the word copper somewhere else in the UK. You need to get back into your TARDIS. What does Ollie think about the round compared to his own?
We've just tried the my regular bullets, which are the Winchester factory loaded, and they were shooting pretty much as we expect. The rifle was pretty well held at zero from the travel. So then we moved on to Andrew's magic copper bullets, and we shot the near muntjac first, and that was, well, it's only 40 yards away, so that was pretty much straight down the pipe. And then the longer one, the first bullet was where we'd expect it to be, in the middle. But then the next two were slightly higher, so I think I might have pulled the first bullet. And so then we shot at the target, and sure enough, they were both high. So we've clicked the scope down a couple inches. Now going to put in a couple more at the muntjac, and hopefully they should be straight in the engine room. I think people need to be introduced to these ideas and make their own minds. So I was introduced this morning, and I've fired 5 or 6 bullets so far, and as far as I'm concerned, firing at a metal target, albeit, they're performing brilliantly. It'll be interesting to see how it actually performs when it hits something that's alive, which is obviously the key that we all need to really concentrate on, but so far so good. So my first impressions is ticking all the boxes.
So 10 minutes in and you're already a believer.
Well, no, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say I'm a believer. With the constant drive towards being greener as a whole community, let alone shooting, being greener, being, you know, better for the environment, I think that shooting needs to show proactive, you know, needs to be shown to be proactive, not be forced by government policy. I think we need to go out there and say, actually, no, guys, we need to show ourselves being proactive, going out there, being better, being greener, being better for the environment, as opposed to being told off by the government and saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like with waterfowl, you know, the lead poisoning with waterfowl, that was, we didn't do that ourselves. We were told to do that, we had to do it. So I think being proactive will paint the whole community in a much better light than just perhaps being forced to do it.
Bullet going slightly high over a slightly heavier bullet, good grouping, what we've experienced. So yeah, ready to hunt. Let's get to it.
We set off into woodland. Ben describes the place.
We are nestled in the North Hampshire Downs, I would say. It's a lovely area. We have a mixture of fallow here, muntjac, and roe deer. The estate in size is about 2,500 acres, and there's a commercial shoot here. It's like nestled in the middle of nowhere. You don't even know it's here. It's absolutely lovely. Chalk and flint. The majority of this estate is arable. There's a couple of really big woods, and then big fields. It's quite hilly. Yeah, it's nice when you're dragging fallow out. Keeps you fit.
And good antler size, I imagine, off the chalk.
Roebuck's not too bad, nice and tall, not overly heavy. The fallow, unfortunately, we don't get big heads. It's just the nature of the way that I would say that deer management in general has gone, and the result is that there aren't the number of bucks present. So you end up with too big a groups of does, and you don't get the big bucks. And so we to be fair, we shoot no bucks on this estate. We have a policy on the fallow. We shoot some prickets, but not too many, and we generally focus on the does for the fallow.
It wouldn't be an Ollie stalking outing without baby wildlife. We walk and stop, call, and then walk again. At the first stop, the call bumps a black fallow. We know that there are deer all around us. Then, in a dark copse, a muntjac doe comes right into the call.
completely different stalking to anything I've ever done before. As
Oh,
well.
yeah.
It's that cooling and then.
But it's intense.
It is so intense. I mean, for editing purposes, that literally is start calling, they start coming. There's no break.
It varies. I mean, yesterday I obviously took Andrew out for a little jaunt, and we called a muntjac buck in, and that took a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he just was very slow and very cautious and just edging, and you just had to tease him.
I mean, I noticed there earlier on we were calling in a slightly lighter area.
Yeah.
And we saw a couple, but they saw us. And we're now in a slightly darker area.
Yeah.
Has that made a bit of a difference?
So, my hunting style will change, and I fit it to what's going on. And today I got a very much sense. The first area we called, we were actually in a relatively dark spot. We were in a closed area with lots of undercover around us, and the deer were moving in it. We then tried an area that was much more open in it, even though we were right next to a dark area. When you're calling deer in, because they get so close, you've got to make sure that they really don't see you, because you don't have the time. It's not like a 100-yard shot. They're suddenly there.
Yeah.
So.
Like just then. It was
Exactly, and so we crouched in. We're in a very, very small area in terms of maximum shot is 30 metres. But we chose a nice area. It's calm, it's quiet, it's dark. And my thought process was that deer are probably bedded up, and it's a lovely sunny day. They might be out in the clearings, but more likely they're actually bedded up.
Yeah.
So essentially we wandered into their sleeping area and woke them up, and using a call managed to bring her in, and it can work for bucks and for does. You know, they can come in as much as each other, but I'm very pleased that we got you your first muntjac.
Thank you very much. Well, I did set you the challenge.
Yeah, and I
You say you like a challenge. Hats off to you.
Was that a doe?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they normally come a bit more progressively,
Yeah.
they can stand there and bark, and sometimes you can hold them. So they'll actually be barking at you, and you can literally hold them and wait for them to get into the right position. And it's just having the nerve to wait and persist. But anyway, well done. We can't shake hands. Sorry, just.
Oh yeah. She was courted slightly towards me, so.
Okay. Well, let's go and see what happened.
We go and find the animal. The copper bullet might be lightweight, but it has torn into the little deer.
It's a dead deer, which is all that matters, I suppose.
Yeah, one has to be careful on shot placement with a muntjac, but I mean, at the same time, the rumen was on the floor.
It's always good, isn't it?
But I, as you said, the bullet's actually grazed. But equally, I mean, not being Church of Cop or anything, the deer has died very quickly. And actually, to be fair, there's a lot of salvageable meat off that. You actually haven't damaged the haunch or anything. You've just literally clipped the front shoulder, taken one of the shoulders out, and then the bullet has gone down the inside of the chest cavity and then exited under the stomach.
In the last few weeks, Ben has been testing deer box, and he reckons it's the way forward for selling venison.
Rather than be controlled by the market forces, i.e. the wholesale venison price, there is an opportunity to stabilise and get more for what you're doing, but you have to add value. You can't just rock up and say, I've shot it, here it is. You've got to think about how you're storing it, how you're preparing it, then you add value. You know, people have complained about the game dealers and the prices. I support the game dealers. They've got the worst job going. You know, they've got us stalkers complaining at the bottom, going how much we get paid, and at the other end they've got the supermarkets, the restaurants, and they've got to fill in all of this paperwork. They've got to do all this work in between. So, I mean, yeah, it's just really taken control of our own market. The website will go live on the 1st of August. We've actually run some boxes. We had some fallow left over from last season, and we've had some roe deer. So we ran some test boxes to make sure that the website was operating, that the cart was operating, the DPD is going to be delivering the way that we want to, that it's coming and it's still arriving frozen. So we've done that, and that's ready to go. And there are a couple of boxes there. If somebody wants to buy one, it's there. But it goes live really with the fallow season.
For more about Deerbox, visit deerbox.co.uk. Ben is a long-term supporter of Fieldsports Channel and thoroughly deserves for it to be a success. Ollie has made his own version of this film on YouTube, and if you want to watch that, there's a link in the description below. Plus, Andrew and Ben get into terminal ballistics on our Field Tester channel. There's a link to that too.